I'm very glad, very, very glad that I got everything in tonight. I did the early review because if I was waiting till tonight to review all 12 games, I'd be up till insanely late. And I did finish my treadmill about half an hour before right now when I'm starting this. Might have overdone it a little bit. Left hamstring kind of hurts, but yeah, that's the way it works sometimes. All right, we had some amazing games tonight that caused me to make some major changes to the power rankings for tonight. I am excited to reveal said board to you fine people. So let's jump in with the Toronto Maple Leafs playing an Islanders game against the Islanders. This might be the most impressed I've been with the Toronto Maple Leafs all season. Now, you can look at it from the point of view of the streak that they're on, which they've been on since Sheldon Keefe came in. You can look at it from the point of view of just pure victories, but the way they win this game tonight, absolutely a thing of beauty. They didn't generate a ton of shots. They didn't play a Toronto game. They played an Islanders game. So first period, Nylander had a breakaway that was denied. Now Nylander does not get on the board tonight, but he had a very good game. And so another solid game for him. There were cheers for Hutchinson every time he saved the puck. And you know what? It was working. It's absolutely working. And Hutchinson tonight was very good. The shots were only 3-3 at 12 and a half minutes. Now, what the Leafs were doing in holding back the New York Islanders is you're giving Hutchinson a longer period of time in the game to get comfortable before the shots start coming at him. It's a perfect plan. There were no shots, though, for Toronto in about 15 minutes. So they were sitting back a little too much. They would generate some shots before the end of that period, but they would go 15 minutes in between shots. And starting in the second, there were some concerning issues, and yet they came through them with flying colors. The Islanders were doubling the Leafs in shots early, but the defense was working very well for the Islanders, while the defense seemed to be working pretty well for Toronto. Hutchinson had a great save on Josh Bailey. And not very long after that, Engvall scores from Kapanen at 13:25. Have I mentioned how much I like Engvall? I do. That kid's a good player. And then they show Justin Bieber in the crowd high-fiving. Now, is he wearing a hazmat suit tonight or prison garb? Now, I'm a big Billie Eilish fan, and she wears oversized clothes, right? Baggy, oversized clothes, and I get why she does it. She's been underage, and she doesn't want like paparazzi gawking at her and all these nasty articles about her and her figure and all this. So she just covers up. And you know what? Full marks to her. What's Justin Bieber? Does he have cleavage he's covering up? And he's going to end up being. Anyways, I've never understood the appeal. And as he gets older, he just looks creepy to me. I don't get it. And I know like the Leafs are out hanging out with him and stuff, and he's wanting to hang out with the Leafs, and he's not Drake. Don't try to make him Drake for the Maple Leafs. All right. I don't know if I'm the only person who feels that way. Leaf fans, let me know if you feel the same way in the comment section below. It really bothers me on some level. Like, no. Don't do this. Don't put Justin... I've got to listen to Hall & Oates every time they score a damn goal. I don't want to see Justin Bieber high-fiving kids after every goal. I don't want my nightmares to be haunted by that image of him in his hazmat prison garb. Just, seriously. Leave the oversized clothes to Billie Eilish. Dress like a human. Leave her to look like an alien. It works for her. All right. And there's people out there going, he knows who Billie Eilish is? I have all of her albums. The Leafs are 15-3-1 when they score first. So that's the good news, other than the horrific image of Bieber and people with his hands. Matthews would score from Marner and Hall at 16:07, and there you go. The Leafs with a 2-goal lead. The Islanders then get a power play. Great last-minute save by Hutchinson. And that's the only power play in this game. This game was very low in hits. Toronto just doesn't hit. And they're not even pretending that they hit anymore. Third period, the Leafs were playing Islanders hockey. The Islanders were stopped at the 5-minute 40-second mark. They had a really good chance that was stopped by Hutchinson, who was absolutely amazing. Engvall hits a post, otherwise he would have had his second goal of the game. And I thought, is it Hutchinson or is it Clutchinson? And then I thought, maybe, nah, probably not. All right, we're not going to call him Clutchinson. We're not going to do that. We're going to move on. It's 3 wins in a row, and he gets a very important number tonight that no other goalie had, but we're not going to call him Clutchinson. Hashtag Clutchinson. Now, Varlamov stopped Tavares. The Islanders push, but the defense was blocking everything. So not only does Hutchinson have a good game, but there were a lot of good shots that were blocked away by Toronto. So they may not have been hitting, but the shot blocks were there. Goalie gets pulled with 2.5 minutes left. You guys know what happens here. Hyman scores from Marner and Matthews at 17:52, and Hall & Oates starts going through my head again because it's going through the arena, and your final score is 3-0 for Toronto. Varlamov saves 20 out of 22 for the Islanders. Hutchinson saves all 33 shots he faced. He was fantastic. They interviewed him after the game. He was grinning ear to ear. Like, he is very happy, and this story of the Leafs just continues to build steam. So if you're not a Leafs fan, it's bad news. Now, personally, I'm going to say this right off the hop. I was very happy Hutchinson got the shutout. When that clock counted down to 0, I cheered for him. So this is where the I cheer for players as much as teams comes into it. Hutchinson's your first star because of course he is. Matthews second and Engvall's third. Power plays. The Islanders had the only power play in the game. They didn't score on it. Toronto doesn't need their power play anymore. They're scoring 5-on-5, which was a problem for them last year. Shots are 7-6 in the first for the Islanders. 16-7 Islanders in the second. Both teams had 10 shots in the third. Final shots 33-23. And while the Islanders had 33 shots, it felt like a lot of those were from the outside, and they weren't really getting a lot of those prime opportunities in front. And when they did, Toronto blocked him. What a great game by the Leafs. All right, next up, Montreal. I feel bad for the Habs. So we start off with a game where I'm cheering when Toronto wins, which is bad enough, and then I feel bad for the Habs. Now, it's not because of an extreme hatred for the Penguins on this either. It is because I thought Montreal actually played a pretty good game here, and they just don't quite get the win, so they don't get closer to a playoff spot tonight. The Penguins were up 3-0 in shots at the 5-minute mark. The Canadiens get a power play. Lehkonen scores from Domi and Suzuki at 8:42 after that power play had expired. And it's like, okay, maybe. Because the thing is, Suzuki and Domi have these amazing runs going. Lehkonen's been playing very well also. But then Aston Reese scores from Bluger at 9:28. And of course, Aston Reese and Bluger are two of my favorite members of the Penguins. So what was notable was that turnovers are still costing the Habs. I don't know how frequent they are compared to during their losing streak, but they're still committing turnovers in the neutral zone. And even though Pittsburgh's missing almost all of their forwards, they still have enough healthy guys. They can burn you when you do that. Domi and Pettersson then had a fight. And by fight, I mean Marcus Pettersson kind of held on for the first 20 seconds, and then he threw a few punches that I think just landed at the back of Domi's helmet. You know, somebody's got to tell Pettersson, you're going to break your hand doing that. The Penguins got a 4-on-3 power play. Hornquist ends up hitting the post. The Penguins get another power play last minute of that period, but it's tied after 1. And early in the second, Arturi Lehkonen with a goal at 3:37. I like that kid, I do. The Habs then got a power play, and you get the feeling like, hey, the Habs could run away with this. But Price denies rust. The Penguins get a power play. The Habs get another power play later on. It's that second period thing that I've been talking about where there's a ton of power plays in the second period. And then in the third, you just don't call them. Mostly. There were some tonight that I saw. There was a really weak call, Nashville versus LA, and I'm like, that's a slash. But I digress. I don't want to get fined either. Gary, if you're watching, I'm just kidding. I don't want to get fined. I'm just here because I don't want to get fined. Football callback. So third period with a 2-1 lead. Murray stopped Scandella, and then Scandella hit the post. Marco Scandella, almost a hero in his first game with Montreal. Now, you know what happens when a team hits the post, the puck goes the other way, and it ends up in the back of the net. It's Brian Rust with his 48th or something. It's the 17th. From Johnson at 5:24. And I'll be dipped. It's a tie game. So they continue to do this. The Penguins, no matter who's hurt, no matter who's out, no matter what's going on, they still manage to get points. Penguins got a power play, and Murray had a very good game tonight. It's easy to lose that in and amongst all the other things that went on in this game. But Matt Murray had a very good game. In overtime, there were early chances for both teams. And then Tanev scored from Bluger and Pettersson at 1:49, but they went right to a replay. So Price allows the goal, didn't leave the crease, just stands there. Because he knows he got bumped before that puck went in, and he knows they're going to review it. It's automatic. Coaches don't have to ask for it. It's automatic. They reviewed it for goalie interference, and they decided no. So either they decided that when Bluger made contact with Price, it was incidental and it didn't interfere with his ability to make the save, or he wouldn't have been able to save that puck anyways. So whatever the reasoning was there, Penguins win it in overtime. The Penguins had a very good week. The Penguins are kind of sort of scaring me just a little bit. 3 stars are Malkin, Lehkonen, and Suzuki. Murray saves 26 out of 28. Very key that he starts playing better. Price, 34 saves on 37 shots. I thought he played fine too. Both teams go 0 for 4 on the power play. Shots were 11-6 Pittsburgh in the first, 13-10 Montreal in the second, 14-9 for Pittsburgh in the third, and in overtime, 2 shots, including the one that mattered, both belonging to the Pittsburgh Penguins, who outshot the Montreal Canadiens 37-28. Very good game, felt like a playoff game, but for Montreal, they're losing ground. So that's the bad news for Montreal coming out of tonight. Next up, Tampa. I've got the It's a Trap over here, and we know how that turned out, right? So I've got my Akbar here. As the second period gets going, I was like, the Akbar magnet really should have been here. But Tampa, they just keep winning. Now, the Bolts got an early power play around the 11-minute mark. The Senators got a power play, but it's remarked upon, and it's true, they hadn't scored on the power play in 4 games coming into tonight, so their power play sucks. It's just what Ottawa does. They were good at having a power play that sucks. Maroon and England then had a fight, and that one was a little more even than the fight we saw in that game. The Senators got another power play. They wouldn't score on that. And then in the second, they're killing a penalty, and guess what happens? They score a shorthanded goal. Tierney from Jaros at 46 seconds. That Jaros assist got added after the game finished. But Tierney gets the shorthanded goal, and check it out. It's 1-0 for Ottawa on a shorthanded goal. But the lead doesn't last. Verhaeghe scores from Hedman and Gord at 2:40. I don't think Ottawa was protecting against Verhaeghe. He had a pretty prime opportunity there. They moved over towards Hedman. That was their mistake. The Bolts then pushed for another. And then Borowiecki, what a offensive machine he's becoming. McElhinney had to deny him there. Borowiecki was going for another goal. He's already set records for goals, assists, and points in his career. So while we're all talking about Duclair and patting him on the back, we need to have a conversation about Mark Borowiecki at some point because he's having a career year as he goes into his contract year as well. He's in his contract year. Now, Shattenkirk would score at 3:45. That's an unassisted goal. That makes it 2-1. And at that point, you're kind of expecting Tampa to run away with it. I was kind of expecting Tampa to run away with it. The way they've been playing lately, it feels like, all right, they're getting more consistency in their game. They're on a streak. They probably saw Boston lost today. I'm guessing they watched that game. They paid attention to that game. They looked at least on their phone at the score of the game, and they understand we have a team that leads this division that is vulnerable. Toronto's well aware of it. So is Tampa. Pajot would score a power play goal from Batherson and Ennis at 11:40. So break up the Senators. They got a power play goal. Then there was a late 4-on-4 play, and Rudolph Balcers had a last-minute breakaway that just missed the net. And that sucked. Because I wanted to say Rudolph Balcers gets a goal, but I can't. However, Borowiecki, he's the man. He scores with 9 seconds left from Anisimov. Yes. Borowiecki, he has more goals than Erik Karlsson. Go look it up. He has more goals than Erik Karlsson. There is a trivia question and answer for people. Who has more questions than Erik Karlsson? Answer, Mark Borowiecki, Borokop. That's the world we live in. Third period, with the Senators with the lead, they get a power play. They don't score on it. So they can't maintain that momentum. And then Braden Point scores from Sergachev and Kucherov at 8:37. And the Bolts really pressured hard. I think they understood this is an important game. We can't let it get away from us. Where Tampa would have let up early in the season, where Tampa would have let their fans down, they didn't tonight. 4-on-4 play around the 12-minute mark. The Bolts had a really heavy push at 16 minutes. Johnson then scores what would prove to be the winner from Hedman and Cirelli at 18 minutes and 30 seconds. They pulled the goalie, those Senators, and Colin White headbutted the puck into the net. And I heard tonight for the first time in my life a referee say, no goal, because he headbutted it into the net. It's news to me. No, you can't headbutt the puck into the net. You can't. So somewhere Svechnikov's like, oh, thank God. That would have upstaged me if that had counted. So props to White for trying it, but that's not a goal. So everybody got a good chuckle out of that, let's be honest. They did. If you were watching the game, you kind of chuckled about it too. Because when it went in, all I said out loud, I yelped, what? Like, just... And then it's a goal, and there's Yvonne. She's like, well, that counted. They put it up. Like, that's not going to count. They can't. That just can't. That can't. I mean, it's nice. It's nice coordination. It's nice to see. I enjoy soccer as much as anybody else, but you can't. So Killorn ends up adding the empty netter at 1953. Tampa does win the game 5-3. The header doesn't count. You can't headbutt the puck. McElhinney saves 25 out of 28. Anderson saves 23 out of 27 in the loss. Your 3 stars are Johnson, Tierney, and Hedman, and your 4th star is White with the headbutt. Power plays 0 for 2 for Tampa, 1 for 4 for Ottawa. Shots were 7 apiece in the first, 14-7 Ottawa in the second, and then 14-7 for Tampa in the third. Final shots 28 apiece. Very entertaining game. And I've said it's entertaining to watch these guys play. And tonight that was very, very true. Next up, Colorado, the Avalanche. Proving me wrong, and it didn't look like they would early, and I'll say why. So early on, the Avs were pushing, but Blackwood looked great. Now, Blackwood looked great. Grubauer looked great. In that first period, there were a ton of shots. Good shots, too. And both goaltenders said, no, it's not happening, not tonight. It was an evenly played first period. So we're going into the second with a scoreless tie. And I thought, this might favor New Jersey. Maybe that Akbar magnet's going to be right after all. Maybe It's a Trap is going to come through tonight. It was a low scoring. Lots of shots to start the second as well. Grubauer saved a good shot from the point, but then the Avs start to take over. This is where Colorado starts going, okay, that's enough. And in the second period, they took over in that second half. Rantanen scores from McKinnon and Girard at 11:23. They pushed it 14 minutes. Blackwood continued to try to defy the gravity that was the Avalanche at that point. Cole would score from Hamenev at 15:34 to make it 2-0 going into the third period. So Blackwood with an incredible performance. Can't hold them all out. In the third period, Rantanen scores from Makar and McKinnon at 8 seconds. 8. So Cale Makar continues his push to get more points again. Here we go. Cale Makar making his push for Rookie of the Year once again. And I decided at that point, this probably isn't a trap game. It's 3-0 now for Colorado. The shots were a pretty hefty advantage for Colorado at that stage as well in the third period. The Avs got a power play, but during that power play, Coleman gets a shorthanded goal from Green at 6:36. And then Colorado, on that same power play, almost allowed Coleman to get another one. So, not a great power play for Colorado. And I'm watching the Colorado feed, and as soon as that power play was done, they're like, good, it's back to 5-on-5. We don't enjoy this kind of thing. Like, I agreed. And then there was a play where it was basically an empty net, and Zadorov makes the save. So, Nikita Zadorov with a save tonight. The Devils get another power play. Guess what happened? Belmar with a shorthanded goal at 13:49. It was challenged for goalie interference. No. And in this case, I agree. Goalie's behind the net. There wasn't really any way for the player to get out of the goaltender's way. And it's incidental contact behind the net. It's not in the blue paint. So the goal counts. Wayne Simmons was not happy with that goal counting. So what happens is they challenge for interference. It's a power play now for Colorado. And Wayne Simmons gets 10-minute misconduct and he's out of the game. The funny part was they knew Simmons was getting a penalty. Simmons just sat on the bench. And then one of his teammates comes over to tell him, you're out of the game. And he goes, for what? And I'm thinking, for all that stuff you said? So Simmons gets kicked out of the game. And, that's what happened there. And then on a power play, the New Jersey Devils would score at 18:37. It's Boquist from Vatanen and Zacha at 18:37. And they pull the goalie because it's close enough. You can try it. But Colorado would make him pay with 16 seconds left. It's Rantanen from Girard and Cole at 19:44. Yep, 5-2 win. That Akbar magnet, it's a trap. Nah, it wasn't a trap. That wasn't a trap game. Wasn't at all. I apologize to Admiral Akbar for misusing him thusly, and I apologize as well to Devils fans for that. Grubauer saves 28 out of 30 in the victory. Blackwood saves 29 out of 33 in the loss. 3 stars are Rantanen, Grubauer, and Coleman. And if Coleman had scored that second shorthanded goal, he might have been the first star because the Devils might have completed that comeback. A lot of might-haves in there, though. Power plays. Colorado 0 for 3. New Jersey 1 for 3. Shots, 12-10 for New Jersey in the first. 13-4 Colorado in the second. And then 14-11 New Jersey in the third. Final shots 34-30 in favor of the Avalanche. And they get a very needed victory on the road tonight against a team they're supposed to defeat. So, that being said, I need to change boards. Alrighty, so Arizona at home against Philly. Philly was not going to allow 4 goals in the first period tonight. There was no way. You're not getting 4 goals against Philly in the first period 3 games in a row. It's not going to happen. Let's see what happened. The Flyers needed a good result tonight. I don't think this was it. The Flyers desperately needed to reverse course. There's not a whole lot of space between them and teams below them in the standings. They were very fortunate today that the teams chasing them mostly got defeated. Mostly. But they are not helping themselves at all. The Coyotes had a power play, but there were limited shots in that first half of the period. This was a Coyotes style of game. This is how they play. And clearly, for the Arizona Coyotes, this is the way they're comfortable. Now, the limited shots could only take Philadelphia so far. At 12 minutes and 33 seconds, Richardson continues his hot streak. I believe that's his third goal in, 4 games? From Chychrun and Hinostroza. I like Vinny. Glad to see Vinny on the board. Osterley would then score from Garland and Lyubushkin at 13:30, and it's 2-0 with 2 goals in less than a minute, and the Coyotes just decided they smelled blood and they went for more. They were going for that third goal. They would get it. Keller, power play goal from Hall and Kessel at 16:15. So, it's 3-0. First period, absolute, total, complete disaster for the Philadelphia Flyers. Again. But they don't allow 4 goals. So eventually they'll stop allowing goals in the first period. Just think about it. That's 11 goals allowed in their last 3 first periods. That has to make them the worst team in the league against first periods when it comes to goals against. I'm just going to throw that out there. Somebody else will go find the number. Hart was out at that point. Elliott went in. I did wonder why Carter Hart was starting today. There was a late Flyers power play. Didn't go anywhere. Second period, the Coyotes get a power play. The teams exchange power plays. It was your standard third period where it's just power play schmozzle. And then Krause scores from Stepan and Goligoski at 19:59. Yeah, there's bad news for the rest of the league right now. Lawson Krause is starting to figure out the offensive side of the game. It's always been big and physical. He's starting to figure out the offensive side of the game. He's a bargain for the Arizona Coyotes. So third period, scores 4-0. But Hill starts the third. Yep. Ranta pulled himself out at the start of the third period, and it would be reported it was a lower body injury for Ranta, and they're not saying anything else. So, bad news for the Coyotes in this one. It was 4-on-4 to start the third as well. There wouldn't be any goals, but the Flyers were smart. They understood they had now got Aiden Hill into the net rather than Antti Ranta, and first Pitlick scores at 3 minutes. Keller then scored from Schmaltz at 4 minutes and 27 seconds. So that gets Schmaltz on the board, and Keller with his second of the game as Keller continues to heat up. But at 8:46, Braun gets a goal from Couturier and Gostisbehere, and I don't know what to say about it other than that's a goal that you've got to save. I get that Aiden Hill wasn't supposed to play tonight, but you've got to save that one. They're very lucky that Hill didn't start the second period, because who knows how this game might have ended up. And Stepan would add the empty netter. It was actually a shorthanded empty net goal at 17:36 to make the score 6-2. It's, again, one of those situations where you pull the goalie when you're down by 3, and it kind of gives me that migraine feeling. It's not really a migraine, but it kind of feels like it. That it's just, what are you doing? You're not going to score 3. Teams don't score 3. Anaheim did it in 2017. It's almost 3 years ago now. We can let that go. As I know, over the last couple of years, there have been times where a team pulls the goalie, and I'll say to Yvonne, I don't understand what they're doing, and she says, Ducks. And it's just, that's what it is, Ducks. Okay, so Carter Hart saves 9 out of 12. They only got 8 shots on Elliott after he went in. 6 of them were saved. 2 of them went in. Ranta saves all 17 shots he faced. Aiden Hill saved 10 out of 12 in relief. Your 3 stars are Keller, Krause, and Schmaltz. Power plays 0 for 4 for Philly, 1 for 5 for Arizona. Shots 12-10 for Arizona in the first, 7-6 for Philly in the second, and 12-4 for Philly in the third. Final shots 29-22. So, yeah, rough night if you're an anti-Ranta fan. All right, moving along. Vancouver, and make it 7. Now, in their last game, it was a high-scoring, chance-filled game at both ends of the ice, and it felt like the Canucks were fortunate. Tonight, the Canucks were fortunate, but you know what? This is a Markstrom win. This is what Markstrom's been doing. So if you're a Rangers fan and you stayed up late tonight to watch and see what the hype's been about the Canucks, and especially since I did a Markstrom video today, you got a good viewing of that tonight. Why right now Canuck fans just love everything Markstrom's doing. It was 90s night for the Canucks, and this is why I'm wearing this jersey, which has the 1994 patch. I actually ordered the patch. I didn't get the jersey with the patch on. It was way more expensive when you do that. So just get the jersey and then get the patch yourself and marry somebody that can sew the patch on. Don't do it yourself, because unless you're good at it, it's probably not going to look very good. And I say that as somebody who tried resewing on a Canucks flying skate at one point. My original that I have that's buried somewhere because it's in such terrible condition now. I got it back in 1991. But it's 90s night. So it reminds us of all of that. And I'm sorry, you have Greg Adams, you have Gino Odjick, you have Cliff Ronning, Dave Babbage, Kirk McLean. Fantastic. Make peace with Trevor Linden and get Trevor Linden into these things. There is something criminal about looking back on the 1994 Stanley Cup. Looking back on that Canucks team that got within one victory of a Stanley Cup win and not having Trevor Linden even talked about. Not having Trevor Linden there. I get it. They got rid of him. He's not the president. That he didn't like what they wanted, and they didn't like what he wanted. Get over it. Both sides get over it. For these 50th anniversary celebrations, it's a giant hole not having Trevor Linden out there. The most iconic picture from '94 is a very pained Linden hugging a very pained Kirk McLean after they lost. Linden played through injuries that most men can't walk through. So I find it very off-putting that the Canucks don't have Linden at these things. So if you're going to look back, fine. But you've got to make peace with Trevor Linden. For the love of God. It's just not right not to have Trevor Linden out there. Hey, here's your 94 Canucks. Everybody's yay. And your Lume's out there. Everybody's yay. And I'm thinking, but it's not because the captain's not out there. He's not out there. I know it was Captain Kirk McLean and that's all gives us all a warm fuzzy feeling. But without Linden, it's not the same. It's just not. Anyways, that aside, sorry, that has been bugging me since I watched that ceremony, and I just had to put that here. Roussel would score from Eriksson and Horvat at 1 minute and 46 seconds. So early on, the Canucks, maybe inspired by that 90s celebration, maybe the Rangers were cooled off by that. But the Canucks get the first shot, and then everything goes against the Canucks. Tremendous pushback by the Rangers. And notable, Markstrom's mask tonight, fantastic. That's a great throwback mask. Power play for the Rangers. They wouldn't score on their power plays tonight, neither would the Canucks. But Buchnevich scores from Kreider at 7:59. And beautiful goal by Buchnevich. Great pass by Kreider. The Rangers were really carrying the play. Hedl got hurt on a play where Mott kind of kneed him on the way by. There wasn't a penalty. It didn't have to be a penalty. It was incidental contact. There was no malicious intent behind it. So it's 1-1 after one. Hedl stayed in the game. Second period, there was a power play for the Canucks in the first minute. But Georgiev was great during that penalty kill. Georgiev had a very good game as well. Shots were 4-3 for Vancouver at the 8-minute mark. So they're playing well. The Canucks, though, went 8 minutes and 10 seconds without a shot. There were some periods during this game tonight where the Canucks didn't really look like they were on a 6-game winning streak. There was a power play for the Canucks, and then there was a late face-off violation by the Rangers. And anytime they call that face-off violation penalty, the team doesn't like it. Usually fans don't like it, and even the announcers kind of like, really? They called that there? People don't like that penalty. I really think the NHL needs to take it out. All honesty, I don't understand the point. I think it's stupid. I think it makes it look... And then the next face-off after, linesman's still throwing guys out of the circle. And it's like, just drop the damn puck. So, anyways, that was a good shorthanded chance for the Rangers during that power play after the face-off violation. We go into the third period still tied at 1. And in the third period, holy crap, the Rangers were fantastic. This is a Rangers team that had a great third period against Calgary, a great third period against Edmonton, and they had a great third period against Vancouver. The frustrating thing for them is, out of those 3 games, no wins. Pressure at 3 minutes by the Rangers, really heavy pressure by the Rangers at 6.5 minutes, as Markstrom just spider-monkeyed his way around the net and just caught and stopped everything. The Canucks had 3 shots the first half of that period, and I think it was 11 for the Rangers at that point. It was 10 or 11 for the Rangers at that point. It was insane. And the first 14 minutes of this period, it looked like the New York Rangers were on a power play. It really did. The Canucks couldn't get it out. The Rangers were having multiple line changes while the Canucks were hemmed into their zone. And yet, Markstrom with a great 2-pad stack on Jacob Trouba. And not too long after that, the Canucks sensing that this was their chance, Hughes, great heads-up play by Quinn Hughes. Goes behind the net, passes it to Horvat, goes back to his spot on the point. Horvat passes it to Myers. Myers with one of those knuckleball shots. It gets through. Tyler Myers with a goal at 18:31. And then the Rangers, they call the timeout. They pull the goalie. And at 30 seconds left, Buchnevich hit the outside of the post. That's as close as they would come, as Markstrom steals one. Vancouver has won 7 in a row. They won this one 2-1 tonight. And Georgiev saves 25 out of 27 in the loss. Markstrom saves 36 out of 37 in the win. His save percentage is insane. 3 stars are Markstrom, and Markstrom. Not really. It's Markstrom, Horvat, and Georgiev. Bo Horvat's been looking way better at home since he got that first goal, since he got that monkey off his back. Now he's starting to look like Bo again at home. So this is really, really, really good news. The thing is, now they go out on the road, but they've built up some wins, so we'll see whether or not they can maintain that. Power plays 0 for 2 for the Rangers, 0 for 3 for Vancouver. Shots 15-7 Rangers in the first, 14-8 Vancouver in the second, and in the third, 14-6 for the New York Rangers. Final shots 37-27 in favor of the New York Rangers. And yet Vancouver comes out with the win. Make peace with Trevor Linden. I swear, I don't want to have to come in there. All right, last game of the night, Nashville and the LA Kings. I don't want to say a game was anticlimactic, but in the third period, even the announcers were calling it boring. They were. They were talking about how, well, it's not a very exciting game tonight. That's pretty damning, especially when you've got this game here, which has lots of shots and great goaltending. You've got this game here that had ended an hour earlier, but still, well, hour and a half before this one ended. But still, you got all kinds of goals and chances, and then you got this. Now, Grimaldi scores from Smith and Yossi at 10:21. Yossi had a very good game. The Preds nearly doubling the Kings in shots at that point. They get a power play, but then turn into a 4-on-4. In the last minute of the period, Johansson scores from Yossi and Ekholm at 19 minutes and 16 seconds. Now, in the first period, there are 31 shots. For the rest of the game, there are 31 shots. So, yeah, it cooled down a lot. That first period was actually pretty good. Rest of the game, second period, the Preds get a power play. The shots were 23-11 early in the second period, in favor of the Predators, of course. Iafallo, however, would score from Toffoli at 5:57, and that's what started the Kings playing better. They started to realize, hey, we're in this. We're only down by 1. And they got into penalty trouble, but they didn't allow a goal at that point. They didn't allow a power play goal all night. So the Predators stopped by Campbell whenever they got an opportunity. Forsberg got a really nice chance that was turned aside. And then the Kings missed an open net chance to tie it. So going into the third, it's 2-1. The shots were 3-2 for the Predators at around the 6-minute mark. And you got the feeling they were trying to nurse this one home until Trennan scores from Irwin and Watson at 9:37. So Trennan with the deflection in front of the net. Irwin with the shot from the point. And that goes in. All of the Predators' goals came quickly after faceoffs. So they win the faceoff and then they win. Now, they win the faceoff and then they score. They did win, though. Smith then scored from Grimaldi at 10:46. So a little over a minute after. Now, what's interesting about that is it was within about 20 seconds of Nashville winning a faceoff. So it wasn't exactly right on the faceoff, but it was close. And this is where faceoffs, people talk about faceoff stats and everything. This is where individual faceoffs matter. And I will pay attention to individual faceoff numbers. I find that faceoff numbers for an entire game usually don't tell much of the story. But when you measure it out and you look at certain instances, certain plays, especially offensive zone faceoffs, that kind of thing, they can make a big difference. 4-1's your final. Nashville Predators. Rene saves 23 out of 24 in the victory. I didn't feel like LA tested him enough. He had his moments where he was bobbling the puck. They just didn't put it past him. Campbell saves 34 out of 38. I thought he played well. Yossi, Grimaldi, and Iafallo are your 3 stars. Power plays 0 for 5 for Nashville. 1 for 4 for the Kings. And that, of course, was the Iafallo goal. 20-11 were the shots in the first for Nashville. 9-8 for LA in the second. And 10-4 in the third in favor of the Nashville Predators. 38-24 overall. So how did this change the playoff picture? I'm glad you asked. The Capitals have 61 points. The Flyers have 49. So they are 4 points back of the Islanders with 53, who are now behind Pittsburgh, who have 55 for second in the division. Over here in the Atlantic, well, you've got Boston with 59 points, who would host Carolina, who have 50 points. They would switch over. But Toronto now has 53 points, and the Tampa Bay Lightning now have 50 as well. So the Atlantic is getting stronger. Just outside the playoffs, Florida with 47 points. So again, that loss that they suffered early in the day hurt them because they would have tied the Flyers if they'd won it. Columbus's loss hurt them. They would have been 1 point behind the Flyers. Buffalo pulls within 4 points of a playoff spot. Montreal with an overtime loss, they pull within 6 points. The Rangers with another regulation loss, they are 7 points back still. And now they have 5 teams they'd have to jump past to get into the playoffs. That's where it gets really tricky. In the West, St. Louis still first place, 59 points. Winnipeg would be their opposition, 48 points, the number 2 wildcard. The Avalanche, 54 points, are leaders over the 52-point Dallas Stars, who are second and third in the Central. First place in the Pacific is Vegas with 54 points. They would host the Oilers, who right now have 49 points. Arizona has 52, and Vancouver has 50. So Vancouver right now is third in the division. Sitting outside a playoff spot, 1 point out is Calgary with 47 points. Minnesota's got 45. Those two teams play each other tomorrow in a game that's very important for both. Nashville, 44 points. They're sitting 4 points out of a playoff spot. Chicago's now 6 points out. And for San Jose, they're 7 points out. I have dropped LA off the board because now they're 10 points out of the playoffs. That's my cutoff. 10 points or further, I'm not putting them on the board because they're too far out to really, talk about whether or not they're still in it. So San Jose is managing to keep themselves in it, just barely. And keeping in mind when people talk about St. Louis, I think the furthest they fell out of the playoffs last year was 7 points. I think that's the furthest out they got. Anyways, there you go. You guys are all caught up in tonight. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. It means a ton. I will talk to you again soon.